Hello, everybody. It's me, Barry B, Bearcat Stuck in Space, and today is the first episode of Mess in the Mess, a Scuffed Let's Cook. Today's recipe, as you can see by the ingredients I've laid in front of you, is chili with chorizo. So for this one, because chili is just any bean with using is essentially a stew made of beans using specific spices, usually chili powder and other things. Personally, for me, I've never really made chili before. I've eaten chili, but this will be the first time I've made it. And so the ingredients we have here are a can of fire roasted tomatoes with garlic, tomatoes with green and red chilies, pinto beans. Now I kind of cheated in a way because these guys were already in a pre-chili mix technically, but we're gonna elevate that because with all these vegetables here and of course these things, they are gonna add a lot more water to it, so it's going to end up diluting it. So you can technically choose in whatever beans. They don't have to be pinto beans or cannellini beans. They can be black beans or whatever, but usually kidney beans and some type of red bean, pinto or whatever, tends to be used. So yeah, we have white cannellini beans, and then over here is a vegetable mix with a little bit of black beans, some poblano chilies, and some red bell peppers. Over here we have the chorizo sausage. These are chicken chorizo sausages. They can be made of whatever, I think, usually like pork, whatever. But you don't technically need to, in chili, put chorizo sausages. You can put whatever, technically. Hot dogs, even. Or if you want chili con carne, you put like ground meat, or maybe even chop up some, what do you call it? Some tenderloin, or pork tenderloin, or some other meat that you prefer to go into a chili. Honestly, the beauty about chilies and stews, soups, is that technically you can just throw in whatever, technically, throw in whatever you want in there, and it'll come out nice. Unless you're Hachima. That's a different story. So, you might be wondering, with all these tomatoes here, why do I have two fresh Roma tomatoes for this? Because they are not seasoned, and they'll give at least in my opinion, they'll make it a little fresher tasting and, we call it, with a variance of flavor. Because these two have technically been seasoned. These two versions of the tomatoes. So they'll bring along their own flavors. This one will heighten the flavor profile of all of them. Now over here I have some cilantro. This one we're going to be adding at the end of the chili as a little bit of a garnish, but also, again, like I said, freshen it up a little bit. We've got some garlic here, and then some red onions. Now, personally for me, I would rather use shallots. Shallots are a smaller onion and a lighter color of purple, and have a slightly more garlicky taste, but pretty sharp. This one, though, I like to use this one because it's got a little bit more bite compared to white onions, or yellow onions, or whatever you want to call them. I call them white onions because they look white. And over here is our spice mix. Now, a basic one that can be used for any chili, if you don't have like any pre-mix or pre-made stuff, would be salt, pepper, chili powder, and some type of paprika. After that, you can add whatever. In this case, there's some what's it called? Like, I found some special adobo mix. I don't know what's an adobo mix, but it smells nice. It gives it a nice smoky smell. And adobo, as in Mexican adobo, not Filipino adobo. Filipino adobo is way different, and that'll be a different episode. What else did I put in there? Some thyme, some pepper flakes. There's a special special blend of seasoning that I have, seasoning salt that I have that uses dried button mushrooms, so that's gonna elevate its umami. And technically, whatever spices you would like to see in your chili, whether it's to elevate the spice, like adding a little bit of cayenne, like I have in here, or something else. Hell, you could probably even use Indonesian sambal, for all I care. Now, things before I jump into showing you me cutting some of the stuff and then prepping the pot here, which is a kettle pot or a Dutch oven pot, which I would recommend when you make chili, but you can definitely use a slow cooker or just a normal pot. But this one is nicer to keep and use because it retains the heat even after you've heated it up and lowered it. It retains a lot of the heat, and so it's perfect for chilies and chowders and all those other types of hearty soups and stews. So I think we should get ready. Alright. Alright, so we're going to start cutting. First, I want to highlight a few things. Always have a little container here or something to catch all of your excess or unwanted cuttings. Basically, your little garbage pail, and then throw it into your compost or garbage. The other thing is, just for my own organization, I have 3 containers to put the ingredients in. And to be fair, most of the time when you're working with meat as well, like, raw meat, you cook that first, or prep that last. So by that I mean, especially if it's raw, you do that last. Because because it's raw, it can easily contaminate and, give you salmonella and other nasty stuff that you don't want. Also, remember to always wash your hands in between, especially in between meats and in between vegetables and meats. Also, make sure that, as cluttered as this is, technically always make sure that when you're setting up all your ingredients, everything is clear. So, let's get started. I'm going to start doing the cilantro first because it's one of the easiest and quickest I can get rid of into the container here. And all you want to do is just rough chop this, everything, the leaf and the stems. Oops. And usually, because I'm not filming when I cook, I wouldn't have them splayed out like that. But because I am trying to show this as well, right? I want to show all the ingredients together. I don't know if I'm going to do that the next episode or not, but we'll try. Be a little bit more organized with this stuff. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just giving it a rough chop. And even though this is also going to be the garnish, some of them, especially if you just want to make them look fancy, you have to cut them a certain way. Me, I'm too lazy, so I just chop away. Enjoy the sounds of the... There you go. Oops, spilled a little bit there. It's okay. Cooking isn't technically a clean profession. You will get dirty. Just make sure to minimize it and not get it everywhere. There's our parsley. I'm going to put it over behind me for now. Take a drink of water. Like I said, I would have loved to, like I've said before, if you checked out my Twitter, or I've talked to you on Discord, or listened to my last video, I think, on my Let's Play for In Other Waters, you'd know that apparently streaming on mobile is very limited to specific requirements, and overall I don't meet those requirements, so sadly that's why I'm not streaming this. Hopefully when you're watching this I have decided to premiere it, and all of you have the lovely chance to live chat it. Now again, and this is another thing we're going to rough chop, but like I've learned from Food Wishes with Chef John, pick a size, stick with that size. Oopsies. And then we just collapse like that. Okay. This is just you don't need to do this. I'm just being a weirdo and separating them like this. But overall, you want to make sure most of them are uniform, so they all cook evenly. Now, how we're gonna do this once I'm done cutting is that we're gonna take the onions, garlic, and chorizo sausage first into the pot. The reason is because you're gonna be creating that flavor base. It's gonna be the most important. Well, not most important. It is very important, but basically you're giving a foundational flavor to your dish. Also, when you cook, even if the sausage is already cooked, you're going to be giving it a nice crisp texture when you cook it and render it. Now, if it's now because these are store bought and I mean like they're not from a butcher, they're prepackaged. They'll be already cooked. Now, depending on who your butchers are and where you get your sausages from, if you get basically, what's it called, freshly made sausages, it'll take a little longer to, not cook, but because it's raw and not cooked right off the bat, you're going to need to be careful and make sure to monitor that. And also, depending on how the sausage is made and who made it, the amount of oil coming out of it is another thing. Because the instructions that I technically am following tells you to drain that oil. Now, personally for me, I wouldn't really do that. Maybe sop up a little bit, but mostly you want to keep that oil because that's flavor, delicious flavor. This is why I like for very classical, not classical, very classic cowboy chilies or whatever. You might have heard that they flavor it with bacon. As well, bacon has fat. And if you crisp that up a bit, it tastes nice. I'm going to rinse my knife a little bit because it's going to get sticky. Now, when rinsing stuff and touching a faucet, do not use your fingers. Just ball them up and use the back of your hand. Maybe. I mean, the thing is, you don't want your fingers to cross-contaminate things. Just gonna take a paper towel, dab this dry. These again, they're not gonna cross-contaminate, as far as I know, with these. The last one I'm going to chop will be the tomatoes, the fresh tomatoes, and we'll set them aside. Those will be going in with the vegetable mix that has the bell peppers, poblanos, and corn, along with a little bit of black beans in there. So the way we're going to end up doing it is that we're going to have this garlic sausage. Let those cook, render out for about 8 8 to 10 minutes, or until they're basically done, and I would say that the onions are translucent. And you'll see what I mean later when we start cooking. Then that's when you put all of your vegetables. In my case, the canned tomatoes, the beans, and the vegetable mix. And then the last one will be the fresh tomatoes, especially when you start to cook it. Now let's take care of the garlic. Personally for me, I love garlic. I love onions. Oops. Oopsies. Okay. And I can't get enough of having them in there. Anyways, garlic's good for you. Good for your health. So, yeah, I think you've seen this technique before. If you haven't, what you do is, for getting rid of the skin on the garlic, take the flathead, smash it, and then have everything fly everywhere. And then just take out the garlic. Now, usually I do this on the table side, not on top of the stove, like a moron, but my ship has a very small kitchen ship, quote-unquote spaceship. So, can only do so much about the space. Oops. I probably shouldn't be doing it with the end of my knife. You should do it with the broad end over here. Also, if you do it too hard, I've noticed on some of my other knives, there's like cracks. But there's also other reasons why, because usually it's because of improper maintenance and care. Sadly. The thing is, I don't have really good... These are good enough knives. They're affordable knives. They're not like, oh man, Master Chef, ooh, types of knives. No, they're not. They're like, I bought this from Bed Bath & Beyond. Oh, there you go. But, oh, by the way, this is not sponsored by anybody. So if I mention a name, it's only in reference. And another scuffed smash. Hold on. Hope you're enjoying everything sounding like it's shaking. It's crushed enough. Or you can just do that. It's safer. But not as scuffed. The funny thing about garlic and onions, well, specific garlic, when you're trying to cut this, is, boy, does it get sticky. And I hope you can hear me from over all the way at the sink, because don't try to rinse it. I'm just doing it because that was easier for me right now. Also, because my hands are sticky. Oh, yes. Yeah, and if you touch your nose or any of your face while cooking, wash your hands and make sure you don't touch, like, red hot chili peppers when doing it. Listen to that crunch. Because God knows, if you touch your face after cutting hot chilies, and I know, it hurts. One time I was cutting up some chilies just to make some spicy omelet. I'm gonna wash my hands because I know I touched my hands. And I had touched the top of my lip without thinking about it. Because I thought, oh hey, I washed my hands. I apparently forgot I didn't. And so I touched my face. And there you go. Wonderfully painful heat up my nose. And on top of my lip. Painfully so. Painfully so. Alright, there we go. I'm going to smash this last one, or more like crush it. And I hope all of you can hear me. I'm talking as loud as I can. I'm making it super awkward as my dad moves up and down the stairs and walks around. So now we're going to start slicing up the ends where the cloves were connected to the root, the big old root end of it. And then we'll roughly chop these and put them in this little thing. You'd think, oh hey, that's too small. Well, you see how small we'll be chopping these. Now, if you don't have fresh garlic, that's fine. You can use powdered. But I'd highly recommend having fresh garlic in your pantry. Same thing with onions. Because fresher is always tastes better. Now, Gordon Ramsay's would definitely yell at me for whatever the hell I'm doing. But, no well. Make it easier on myself. Cut them little by little. This is it. So, see this, and again, I'm just rough chopping these. We're not doing anything truly proper. To me, at the end of the day, once you get these into the pot, pan, or whatever you're going to be cooking, as long as it tastes good, because you could have the most beautiful looking dish, and it tastes like nothing. Meanwhile, you have something that looks like, I don't know, the kitchen sink, and yet it can taste amazing. I mean, preferably, it helps the appetite and the eyes if you make it look nice. And we're gonna attempt to try to make it look nice. Now, what was the point of also crushing these? To release the oil that's inside the garlic. You know, release its enzymes and flavor. There you go. Oops. We're gonna chop that even more. Now, I don't know if I'm going too slow for actual professionals, and boy, I probably would be yelled at by actual professionals, like, oh, you're holding it wrong, you're doing this wrong. Well, like I said, I'm not a professional. I just know how to cook well enough to survive. Put that on the side there. Side there, and dice this last group, and we'll scoop it up and put it in to container. Hopefully I'm not mumbling too much. That'd be pretty bad, especially since the mic is right here next to me. Hopefully I didn't just accidentally show my hairy face, but I don't think I did. It'll be over toward the stovetop. I gotta make sure I don't do that. Right. That's done. Set it aside over here. Let that space. Take these things. I will wash my hands. I'm gonna rinse this knife, and we will move on to the tomatoes, and then finally cut the chorizo. I'm not stopping the recording. You can hear me washing my hands, so that is proof. Right, and I'd say that this thing can be the container for the tomatoes. Whoopsies. Yeah, there you go. And then once we're done with these and start cutting, and these are the chorizo is finally cut, we'll put some oil inside this and start warming it up. And I think that's where we'll stop, and I'll start again once it's warmed up enough. Or, no, you know what? Yeah, no, it'll be fine. Or you can do that now. Actually, now I think about it, let's do that now. So, you probably just need a tablespoon of oil. Just a tablespoon or two of oil. Just don't put too much oil. Sadly, here's the thing. You don't want exact measurements. I'll try to give you the best ballpark recipe and measurements of what I technically use here. But a lot of it is up to you. At least some of the basic stuff. Because the way I usually cook is definitely by eye. So definitely put a little bit of oil, but not too much. Just enough to coat the bottom. Because I've done this before, we've accidentally put a little too much oil. When you start cooking things, boy, water splashes everywhere. Even if you didn't put water there. But the reason why we're going to start probably warming this up now is because this is a Dutch oven pot. It is thick, and it'll take a while for the heat to puncture. But once it's there, it will be there. So let's set it to heat mark 5 because I have an electric stove. Kind of hard to source a fire, or what's it called, gas stove here. Right. So, how do we want to chop these? I'm just going to rough chop this. Again, no real precise things. By the way, I just remembered, yes, I know I said I was going to rinse this knife. It's fine. And we'll just cut off this part because this is the end. You know, the stem end. I'll put this over here for now because I want to get all this. This time I just start off the stem end, put that off, and continue. Now, be sure when you want to use knives for cutting or chopping, it's the proper knife. This is the proper knife for this job. Improper knives would be like paring knives, which are the small ones. Oop. Mask coming off. Okay, so something happened in the recording, and you missed me cut up the meat. And you missed the part where I talk about stuff about the tomatoes anyways. We finished the tomatoes, putting them on the side. Now, we're going to be taking the chorizo, the onions and garlic, and putting them into the pot that I've just warmed up. Okay. I am going to pause the video, and we'll come back when I've repositioned the camera, so it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. Alright, so, now, we put in our onions, garlic, and chorizo, and we will be rendering that on medium heat between 8 to 10 minutes, or until it basically looks done. Now to make sure it's done evenly, the flavor, we'll toss it around. Yep. And the reason why you hear snapping is because I waited a little too long to put it in. So the oil there and doing its thing. So I'm just gonna manically move these around. Looks like I didn't fully cook one of them. Get on it. There we go. Alright. And we'll deal with this 8 to 10 minutes, and we'll come back. Okay, enough time has passed, and well, for me, this looks about ready. This is really starting to stick there, and look at that. Got some little burnt parts there. That's fine. It's fine if it's sticking with that. It's going to give it some more flavor. But overall, the sausages look good, think they're basically cooked enough. Anyways, it's already, because these are pre-made, they're already ready to eat anyways. And the onions and garlic are just about right. They're about translucent there. It's almost browning. Now, personally for me, I like browning my onions and garlic to a nice color because it just gives it a nice flavor. And sorry if it's wibbly wobbling. That's just because where my camera is set up. Alright. So now we add all the other ingredients. I'm going to put the tomatoes again last. So let's first start with the beans. Got the white beans. One little bean. One little bean. Our seasoned pintos. So we're sizzling because there's some liquid in that. There's going to be a lot more. Because we've got our other tomatoes, the chilies. Let's put that there. Hold on, I'm going to mix this real quick. All mixed in there. Oops. Careful with your size. Now, probably would be nicer if this was a bigger pot, but this is what I have. And we're going to try to make sure all of it is cooked thoroughly. Personally for me, I mean, as much as you might be able to make chili into a side dish, yeah, personally for me, it can be a meal. And looking at that, that definitely can be a meal. Alright, some of the vegetable mix here. Oops, let's make sure we get all of that. The fire roasted tomatoes, garlic tomatoes. To me, even though the thing I'm using as a reference says, what do you call it? A cup and a half of broth. In this case, I'm using beef broth just to give it a more hearty taste. I think a cup is fine. Just look at that. There's a lot of liquid. But you can always add more to get your desired, oops, splash, to get your desired consistency, because some chilies are more soupier than others. Some are a lot more thicker. Now, judging by the level, we'll see if we need more. Now, you don't need to technically use broth. Broth is optional. You can always just put water. And the color tends to come with all the other ingredients that I put in here, and or other ingredients that you have decided to select for your own chili. Now, somebody out there might be going, it's sacrilege, look, there's corn in that chili. Well, whatever, this is my chili. This is the chili I want to make. Yeah, looking at this, I think we have enough water, so most of it will boil away. Now, are we going to use the spice mix? Yes, we are. I'll sprinkle a little bit of it in. We will sprinkle a little bit of this in, just to make sure it's not diluted in flavor. I'm pretty sure it's already pretty flavorful. Save the rest for basically to your taste. Take this, pass around, try to evenly mix it. I'm trying to also make sure my voice is projecting. If my voice sounded muffled earlier, it's because I've had a face covering over my face, because I don't know how I position the shot. I don't know if I'm in it and showing my face. I do not want to show my face as much as I'm totally fine doing that in other cases, but for now, nope, not this time. So Once well mixed, we'll let that boil, and we'll lower the heat, and then let it simmer, and then when we come back, we'll see what we have. And this will be for about So when you bring stuff to a boil, you usually see if it's got bubbles popping up. And then once we start seeing bubbles coming up, and I mean either are usually like a little bit more rapidly, you'll see when I check it again. Then that's when we'll lower the heat to 20. We'll lower the heat, and we'll let it simmer for 25 minutes. Alright, we'll be back. Now it's boiling, as you can see. So let's just mix that a bit. Alright. Sure nothing's on the bottom. Now we lower it. In my case, we lower it to degree mark 3. And we let it simmer. Now, personally for me, I will put the lid on this one, but you can probably totally have the lid off. For now, just to keep the lid on, or maybe just a jar, like that. And then, check every once in a while for about 20 to 20, you'll be waiting between 20 to 25 minutes, or until, once you check it, it's the consistency that you like. And also, if you used raw meat, always check if it's fully cooked through, or if you have put potatoes or stuff like that, always stick a skewer or a knife or a poker and see if it goes straight through. Then that means it's tender, it's ready. If it doesn't cleanly go through, it's got to keep cooking. And for the meat, same thing. You'll find out how tender it is if you stick a skewer through it. Also, of course, the obvious one, checking the color. Alright, we'll be right back to see what the finished product is. And we'll maybe give it a taste. It'll be really hot, but we'll give it a taste once it's done. Okay, be back. Alright, we're finally back. It's simmered for about 20 to 25 minutes. Or more. Honestly, I didn't have a timer this time. By the way, if you are bad with time, keep a timer. Also, during that time, if you were kind of doing the recipe like I was, doing this like I was cooking, remove the lid at some point and just let it simmer and just watch it. And even if you have the lid on, always watch it. Well, especially if you have the lid on. So, in the end, I tried a little bit of it. It tastes like chili. Kind of. Honestly, I think I overestimated the amount of tomatoes I had. I mean, I'm fine with tomatoes. Tomatoes are healthy. But I think I should have had more beans. Oh, God. I mean, technically, this is a good consistency. If you wanted a little bit more, less liquidy, I guess you let it simmer for longer and then let it sit. Or a shortcut is always taking potato starch, diluting it in water, and then pouring it in and then mixing it to make it a bit more thicker, but I don't feel like cheating like that. Hey, you do you. So what this tastes... God damn it. What it tastes is like in between chili and tortilla soup. Especially since I added into the mix earlier off camera, what do you call it? The rest of the fresh tomatoes, and then the rest of the spice mix I made, along with a little bit of the cilantro. Well, I think this is basically done. You can have this by itself. Definitely the way I make things, it's a meal on its own, with the way that, how much is there. You can have it with rice, Spanish rice, brown rice probably. Bread can be your side, or your carb. And like I said, just sprinkle over crushed tortilla chips on there, and You're good to go. I'm gonna turn off the heat and let's sit there. I guess technically just let it finish up and proof. I'm gonna take the rest of this cilantro and sprinkle it on the top. Now, if you're in a big family gathering and this is what you and you made chili in this kind of pot, I'd say make sure out on the table or wherever you're serving it, you have it padded for the heat on this thing, and make sure to grab it with gloves because boy will this be hot. Right now, the way it is, it's ready to eat, ready to go. It looks good. Might have been scuffed, so we might have just ended up with tortilla. We might have intended for chili and ended up with a tortilla soup. I don't know. Here's the thing: as long as it tastes good, I don't think it really matters. And I'm utterly satisfied with what I made. I think. Well, my fellow space jockeys, thus ends the first episode of Mess in the Mess, a scuffed Let's Cook. Boy, it was. Thank you all for watching, and all who have decided to follow me and support me, if you can and have. If you want more content like this, please like and subscribe, and I'll get to it eventually. Especially since university is coming around soon. And so I don't know what my schedule will be. I know I just started, and I said before I don't have a set schedule. And it'll remain that for a while, so fingers crossed. Alright, folks. Again, thank you for watching and coming. Have a good one, Space Jockeys, and I have dishes to do. Goodbye!